Hello everyone, welcome back to our final video for our solar system project. In the last project we went ahead and finished up the animation portion of this. Something we might want to look at is that when Maya does animation is that it does this ease in, ease out type thing. So it slowly starts to get into the speed of the animation, and then towards the end it slows down again. So we can see this inside the graph editor, which is something we can edit. So let's go ahead and pull up the graph here. I'll go ahead and close this for now. We'll do a split screen, and I'll go to Panels, Panel, and Graph Editor. There we go. Okay, so you can see here, here's this exponential type graph where you have the ease in, ease out of the animation curve. And each one of these has this. So we have the sun, and you have each planet all having the same kind of curve go on. And there's something we can do to make it play linearly. Very simple. There's one here called linear tangents. That will make it to where both the tangent handles, the corners of these little dot here and dot here at the bottom, will make it to where they are linear. So if we grab this one here, you see it has a tangent handle, and we can adjust if we want to. We can break this one even individually, make it to where this one here is linear, and make it to where like the whole attribute isn't linear. So it gives us some power in that way. Let's see here. There we go. So I can make that one linear as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and do this to all of them. So we're going to want to click on all of these guys and make sure that they are all included. We're just going to do the planets first. We'll do the groups next. There we go. And we'll just do the linear tangents for all of them. We'll just make it to where it's all linear. You don't need to be specific. There's only one attribute we're animating. Okay, so now we need to step it up and get the groups in there as well. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to select all the groups, and there they all are, and they all have that, except for the sun, as we already did that one. We selected that. So you can see how they all kind of stagger, and the reason they're staggered over here is because if you remember, we stepped it down 100 degrees per planet, moving away from the sun. So we'll make it to where they are all now linear by just clicking this linear tangents. So there they go. They are all linear, which means that it'll just start at the same speed and carry that all the way through to the end. Okay, so we're now done with this. So I can go ahead and shut down my outliner. I could also shut down the graph editor, but I'm done with that for now. Okay. Now if I press play, there we go. Starts out at full speed and holds this all the way through the animation. So that's perfect. Okay, excellent. Next, I want to actually create a star dome kind of thing that's going to encompass our solar system. And to do that, I'm just going to drop a brand new sphere inside the scene. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just click on this sphere here. You can't see it because it pops up inside the sun, but if you hit the transparency, you can see that it is in fact inside there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this one up, R for scale. I'm just going to make it to where it's big enough to encompass everything. There we go. All right, so there is our star dome. So you see how it's gray over here, and if we zoom in on the inside, it's black. It's because the normals are facing outward, like normals do. They always, when you create them, they face away on the outside of the object. Normals only face in one direction, but we want them to face inwards because they're going to be the dome for inside our solar system, right? So we want the texture to be up here on this side. So we want it to be light gray on the inside until we put a texture on there. Anyways. So what we need to do is we need to flip the normals. And to do that, you're going to go to where it says Mesh Display, and we'll go down to where it says, there's this Normals tab right here, and we're going to go down to where it says Reverse. Click on that, and now is gray on the inside, indicating that is now UV, or I'm sorry, not UVs, normals are now facing inward. Okay, so that's great. Now we just need a texture for the star dome. If we go to Moodle, we can easily grab that. See here. Open up Moodle on here, and give me a moment. Just gotta do my login. I don't want you guys all seeing it. So if you're in my class, this is where you'll find it. Go down here, You can see there is star texture right there. Let's go ahead and click on that guy. And I'll just do save image as. And we'll go to where my desktop is. Desktop, solar system project, source images, and I'll just save it right there. Boom, there we go. This is a seamless texture, meaning that as I scale it up in the UVs, it'll make it towards more and more detail. We'll want to make it kind of big, so these little stars here aren't so huge. They'll be kind of scaled down a bit in comparison to the rest of the solar system. Don't want to make it too big though, otherwise it'll start to pattern out and you'll be able to see that pattern. Okay, I'm going to shrink that down. For anyone else who is not in my class, you can also get this texture in the Dropbox. I'll include it. Okay, so we're going to do a shortcut to texture this. We're just going to hold down right mouse button here, and we're going to get the floating menu. And we're going to go down to where it says assign favorite materials, and we're going to go to Lambert. So it automatically attaches in that Lambert for us. And we're 14. Let's go ahead and call this one Sky Dome Lambert. And where the color attribute is, we're going to go ahead and click on that attribute. We're going to go to File, Folder, and Seamless Space. There it is. And open. There it is. Okay. All right. So that was, remember when I was talking about how it looks really bad because the scale is so big. This is where we got to jump back into the UV texture editor and scale down or scale up the UV set so that the texture tiles and that these stars look smaller. So we're going to go to our 2 screen again. We're going to go to Panels, Panel, and UV Editor. Okay, and I'm going to go to UV Shell, select it. Okay, and I'm just going to scale it up until I'm satisfied with it over here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Content with that. Okay. All right, we're getting pretty close now, guys. Now we need to create ourselves a virtual camera. You don't necessarily have to have one to get our render to work, but it does make things look a little nicer. It gives you some control over what your camera can do, so we can make it where our camera itself is animated versus just being stationary like the perspective camera. So I'll go to Create, and we're going to go to Create, Cameras, Camera. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to move it back a little bit. And it gives you this camera. It kind of looks like a traditional film camera, right? And the shape of the camera doesn't really matter. You can scale this thing up or down. It doesn't really change how it records. It has no control over it. It's just about the position is the only thing that's really important. So we're going to go back to frame 1. And we want to get ourselves a good starting position. So make sure you're scrubbed down here to frame 1 that you are at the beginning. And we're going to go to Panels, Perspective, and you'll see there's camera 1. That's the one we just created. So now I'm actually looking through our virtual camera. I'm going to scroll over and get myself to a decent starting position. Okay, so frame 1, I'll go ahead and hit S on frame 1. Okay, making sure that I'm still in the camera, I have that selected. That is the most important part at the moment. Because if you're clicking on something else, you just animate something else. You clicked on the camera, we're looking through the camera, you haven't selected anything else, then all the keyframes that will happen now will be applied explicitly to the camera. If you click on something else, you're animating something different. So let's go ahead and animate this thing going out. So let's say that around here, I'm going to want to get that view. Okay, so let's say hit S, got a keyframe there. So now let's go back to frame 1 and let's scrub and see what that feels like. Okay, so my camera's moving, the solar system is spiraling out. That looks good. Okay, so what's it going to do to frame 300? Maybe I'll have it just tilt a little bit more. I'll click in 1. Maybe I'll have it level out just a smidge. Okay, something like that. So let's go ahead and go for that ride. All right, so I'm going to hit play. Let's see what this feels like. Okay, make sure it's not feeling too jittery. Nice slow movements for the cameraman. Okay, that feels pretty good. Okay, that's good. All right, so we are now done with setting up for our renderer, right? Okay, let's do ourselves another little bit here, which is I already know from experience that since we're inside of a dome now, it'll make it to where when we go to render, we'll be in complete darkness because it's going to block out any kind of default light that we have in our scene. And your scene has a default light built in since we haven't created any kind of virtual light, so we're not going to be doing that in this project. But since we're inside of a dome, all of our solar system is going to be in darkness because it's going to be basically hidden inside of a ball. But what we can do is underneath the shape node, so we have the attribute editor open. So here's the attribute editor tab for the sky dome. You'll see this, so it says P-sphere1 shape, and it says right here, render stats. Go ahead and open this up. Two of the options at the top here say cast shadows, receive shadows. We're going to go ahead and turn those two off. We don't want those. That will make it to where now when the light hits this, it will not receive shadows from any other external surfaces, and it will not cast shadows onto anything inside here. So that's mainly what we wanted. Okay. One other thing I want to do is I want to select my sun here. I want to add a little bit of a glow effect. So I'm going to bump up the ambient color, and I'm going to go to the special effects. I'm going to bump this up a little bit as well. This is the shader, the sun Lambert that's attached to this object is what I'm adjusting right now, guys. Okay. Okay, that should be good. All right, so we're going to do one quick test and just see how this renders. Okay, so we're going to click on this icon here. Let's go a little movie take, and this will give us a quick render. But before I do that, I need to make sure that I'm not trying to render with Arnold because I'm using Maya shaders. So I'm going to check my render settings first. This open here, the movie take with a little gearbox next to it. I can see that by default, Arnold renderer is active. So I need to go ahead and turn this off and turn it over to Maya software. Okay, so now it will render Maya software shaders. Okay, so now we can click on the movie take and we can get going. All right, there we are. That looks pretty good. All right, I'm happy with that. We can go ahead and start animating or rendering. I'm sorry, I spoke there. We are going to go ahead and make a quick adjustment to our render settings. And this is real important. If you guys are just doing rendering for the first time, this is real critical. So where it says path, this is indicating that where you set your project or where it's going to dump your rendered images to. So if you didn't set your project yet, you're going to go to File and Set Project, navigate to your project folder and set it to that folder. Then it will have this path located going to your project folder. And mine's accurate, so I'm not going to have to go through and change mine. Okay, so going down here, we have where it says File Output. We also see Maya IFF. So Maya IFF is a Maya type file, and it isn't always received well through other programs. So I'm going to switch this one over to PNG, and I'm going to leave it at that. Okay. All right, so we're going to go down a little bit further. Let's see here, where it says Frame Animation Extension. It says single frame. That means that it's only going to render a single frame. It doesn't give us the option to expand upon that. So we're going to click on this and we're going to open it up to where it says name.number.extension. There we go. And on end frame, it says frame 1 to 10. Now 10 is too short. We have 300 frames. So I need to open this up to 300. Okay, excellent. Moving down a little further here. Ask me which camera do I want to render from. By default, it's set to the perspective camera. Now we create ourselves a virtual camera. So there we go to camera 1. That's the one we want to render from. So now we'll render from that animated camera that we created. Okay, going down a little further here, it says presets for image size. That's the rendered images that we're going to batch render. Right now it's set to HD 540. I want it to be HD 1080. You can always change it to whatever you want. That's usually what I recommend my students to render at is HD 1080. Okay, so underneath the Common tab, we're done. We're going to click on the Maya Software tab, and we can go ahead and we can adjust all this stuff if we want to. I'm going to go ahead and go to Intermediate Quality, and where it says Ray Tracing Quality, and we'll go ahead and activate Ray Tracing as well. Okay, so from here, we're good to go. Actually, yes, we are good to go. So I can close this down. And then from here, I'm going to go make sure I save. So save scene as, and I'm going to go ahead and call this one. You can see how it says Solar System Breading. That's my last name. And that makes it to where for turn-ins, I know that this is essentially the same thing as putting your name on your homework. But it also makes it to where if you're working with a team that they know who worked on a particular part of a project. So if they want to come back and say, hey, I have a question about this, they know exactly who worked on this particular file. It's something that we do depending on which company you're working for. If you're working for yourself, it's completely unnecessary. But if you're working for a bigger team, this might be something they apply upon you. Okay, so for saving this, I'm going to put solar system underscore anim, meaning that it's already been animated and it's good to go. So I'm going to do save scene as. So that just creates another file. Okay. And from here, I go ahead and batch render and my happens to crash or anything like that, we've been safeguarded now. So we are now ready to batch render. And to do that, we need to switch our modeling tab right over here. We're going to switch this over to rendering. Okay. From here, I'm going to go to renderer and batch render. Okay. So if you're working on a home PC, you can select how many processors you want to use, or you can use all your processors and it will render with it, whatever it has available. If you are working on multiple things at the same time and you're batch rendering on and you also want to go and be doing some 3D modeling as well, or working some other program, I would say split your processors in half. That way you're not totally choking your computer down. But if you're planning on just batch rendering and going off doing something else, then you just hit OK, batch render and close. All right, and down here at the bottom, you'll know it's working okay because you'll say rendering with my software ... That means that right now it's starting up the batch render process. And pretty soon here, you'll start to see this number start to spin, indicating that it's going through and rendering each one of the images. Okay, and a second here should be firing up here in just a minute. When it does, what's going to end up happening is it's going to render them out and it's going to stick to these. Allow access. Okay, that's why I hadn't started yet. We go to the solar system project underneath images. This is where it's going to render out all the still images. And there'll be a bunch of them, so about 300 images, just like there were for frames. And then we're going to composite all those together later on in After Effects. So close this down. Go back in here. And it's having a little bit of trouble starting up. Let's see here. Also, if you are rendering and my cousin fires up, I might be having a little bit of a snag because my firewall might have caught mine, but this is indeed how it will work. If you do run into a snag though, and you're rendering, and let's say you have found out that frame 40 to 50 is not looking good, and you want to abort your render, you can always go over to cancel batch render. I don't need to cancel mine because I can see that now mine's going. You see it's rendering or percentage of rendering done, and it's just ripping through these frames now. And this one here takes me about, looks like 2.5 seconds per frame. I'm not going to be able to sit here and wait for all 300 frames to render out, but just we can go ahead and take a look really quick and you see what that will look like over here really briefly. Okay, so there they all are, and it's rendering them out one at a time. So then once we get into After Effects, we'll go composite all these frames together. After Effects is just one of many programs you can use, but it seems to be the one that I use the most often. I recommend using. Okay, so like I said, we have 300 frames to go. I'm not going to bore you guys with just seeing here rendering while it does have nothing else to do. So we're going to go ahead and end the lesson here. From here, you guys can go ahead and bring it into After Effects. It should be a very quick process of just creating a composition, import the single file, and then drag that. The single file will bring in all sequential files with it, the rendered images, and then you just drag that down the composition and then just render out the video and it'll composite all those still images together. If you have multiple takes, you can always take and put all those together. I don't have After Effects on this computer yet. If I do, I'll create an updated video later on with them all being composited together. So for now, this will be the end of this project, and I will look forward to seeing you guys in the next project. Thanks for watching.